York Jets. Highlights of the 1970 season. Brought to you by Hess, where you'll find a world of quality at the cleanest, brightest gasoline stations in the USA. Autumn, when the glimmer of the sun breathes life into stone. Autumn, a time for green, a time for blue, a time for red, a time for love. In New York, it was a time for hope. Weeb Ewbank had forecast his best team ever, but for the Jets, autumn soon became bleak. Though the signs bore them luck, the fates had charted a different course. It was sinister. It was diabolical. It was a nightmare. Their fall began before the fall. It struck first at the front four on August 8th when All-Pro Jerry Philbin dislocated his shoulder. In the third game, it hit tackle Roger Finney. Then it was Matt Snell, gone for the year with a ruptured Achilles. Gone, 220 pounds of total runner. But they were not alone. 6 All-Stars missed at least 4 games each. Snell, Philbin, Maynard, Sauer, Boozer, and then there was Joe. Yes, it was a season of adversity, a season which saw the New York Jets struggle to survive against all odds. In the beginning were the Browns. Last year, Joe Namath had led a conservative offense. He opened 1970 by again letting his runners Matt Snell and Emerson Boozer pick and shovel the defense. The strategy worked early, but fumbles and 161 yards in penalties forced Namath to play catch-up, and he filled the Cleveland night air with ringers. Soft, hard, short, long. 19 strikes. George Sauer caught 10, and as only he can do, Joe Namath carried his team back to within a kick. But Joe Willie was forced to throw once too often, and Cleveland branded the Jets a loser in their opening game. In Boston, however, ball control and a single Namath airstrike blitzed the Patriots to even their record. But in Buffalo, they would lose the battles and the war. Finney and Snell, the NFL's leading rusher, were out for the season, and the Jets were grounded 34-31. With 6 offensive regulars sidelined, timing was at a premium. Their homecoming, no party. The Dolphins beat the Jets for the first time ever. Then Weeb Ewbank watched Joe Namath stir the dust at Shea against his former team, the Colts. 34 for 62, both club records. 12 for number 7, Ed Bell, tying a club record. From 17 down they came. Boozer for 6, the Jets within 7.
Way to work, Joe! Do it again, Joe! Come on, Joe!
But they lost. They lost the game, and they lost their quarterback. His wrist shattered. Sir Galahad in cleats was gone. What remained was Joe Willie in black and velvet, in pink and suede, in white and plaster. The Jets were now living on a win and a prayer. The prayer was 6 feet 5 inches, 205 pounds. He wore number 18, and they called him Al. He needed time. Time for the team to get used to him. Time for him to get used to 60 minutes of, "You're our quarterback." But as the weeks passed, Al Woodall responded. For the first time since rock and roll, New York had a quarterback with 4-ply wheels. He adapted and he created. He learned when to run and when to pass. Compare him to Namath? Compare a pony to a thoroughbred, but give him time. He came in as an untested sophomore and left as one of the game's best number 2s. And someday, the headlines will read, Broadway Al does it again. Torn tendons, broken wrists. At times, it seemed the only good legs in town wore stockings. But Coach Eubank had others to smile about. He had number 34, Lee White, the hammerjack back out of Weber State, who took Matt Snell's place in the third game. He had number 37, George Knock, from the city of brotherly love. Knock appeared midway through the season and never left, gaining over 400 yards. A knee-jerk runner with power, Knock claims he will caddy no more. Not even for this man, Emerson Boozer. Number 32 has been on the brink of superstardom for some time. Only injury has kept him mortal. Although he missed 4 games, he gained 600 yards, averaging 4.5 yards a carry, making it his best year ever. Until Boozer and Snell were injured, the Jets led the NFL in rushing. After that, All-Pro lineman Winston Hill, along with Herman, Schmidt, Foley, and Rasmussen, often were in front of a second-string backfield. The pressure was greater, but they dug in and gutted out another good year in the foxholes. They blasted and they jousted. The passers threw and the catchers caught. Number 87, Pete Lamons, was the only regular receiver healthy for every game, and he was alive and well, living in defenders' arms. Not so with country Don Maynard, who was literally hamstrung for much of the year. The new kid was number 88, rookie Richard Castor. While Maynard was stretching his injury, Castor was stretching his 6'5" frame. Like Maynard in his prime, Castor has that lean and hungry look. And like Maynard, he can run like a deer. Don Maynard's legacy is safe with number 88. They threw to the deer, and they threw to the flea. Number 7, rookie Ed Bell, squirreled his way around defenders as another of the medics that came to save the injured. Most of the time, however, Bell took a back seat to the receiver's receiver, number 83, George Sauer. It was another year of bump and bounce for Sauer, but through it all, he hung on. With 6 years behind him and at least 6 more ahead, the eyes of Texas will cross the legs of defenders, and happiness will be George Sauer all alone again. They came, they saw, and sometimes they doubted. But in a year of X-rays and extras, the Jets remained a competitive entry. They gave Don Shula and the playoff-bound Dolphins a day with Dracula in their 13th game. For nearly 60 minutes, they scared the Dolphins into believers. The defense solved the riddle of Bob Greasy, but the offense couldn't match them, and they lost 16-10. One of 6 games lost by a touchdown or less. But the big hurt was Oakland. This game marked the Jets' last chance for the playoffs, and they played like there were indeed no more Sundays left. Boozer bullied the Raiders for 115 yards, his third best day ever, while Woodall's passing and 2 Jim Turner field goals had eased the Jets into a 13-7 lead with 25 seconds to play. 59 minutes of hit and win. 59 minutes of giving Oakland but 1 first down rushing. Now, all of a sudden, it was 20 seconds of hit and lose. Pass interference. Critical but not fatal. Eight seconds. Time enough for LaMonica to unload a prayer. Time enough for Warren Wells to catch it. 2,000 plays in a season, but really just this one. An image forever remembered. Heartbreaks, injuries, but through it all, Coach Eubank had to be proud, especially proud of his defense, the AFC's best.
Come on! Come on now!
Eubank has built his fortress on a solid foundation, the front four, the concrete. Left in Jerry Philbin, an all-time AFC All-Star. Number 85 tackles Steve Thompson, the swingman. Number 86, Verlin Biggs, the hatchet. Mark Lomas, number 84, began the year for Philbin, ended it for Thompson, and started all 14 games. Number 80, John Elliott, was all-conference. He should have been all-pro. At 240, he is light for a tackle, but there are none quicker. The Jets were the AFC's best defense in 1968. Elliott first started in '68. They were number 1 overall and against the run in 1970. John Elliott again made it happen. The front four, the necessary concrete. The 3 pillars in the middle were just as tough, just as crack-proof. The linebackers, the centaurs, half lineman, half back, each with a specialty. Larry Grantham, number 60, was the kamikaze, a blitzer supreme. Ralph Baker, number 51, was the drop-back artist, covering the runners as if he were one himself. And Al Atkinson, number 62, did it all. The hug and squeeze. The takeout and trip. The blitz and drop. The pillars, underrated by the media, praised by opponents. The best. The roof that didn't leak. They man for man. They bump and run. They wheel, they deal, they steal. They are the Sky Marshals. From Florida came number 21, Steve Tannen. The rookie met the pros and prevailed. From Colorado State came Early Thomas, number 45. Early was right on time. From the Denver Broncos came number 48, Gus Holloman, the third-year strong safety. And cries of "Who's he?" soon turned to "There he is." And from Houston came W.K. Hicks. W.K., that's will catch. A free safety with receiver's hands and runner's speed. W.K. Hicks, the dean of a secondary of 4 new faces that led pro football with the best percentage defending the pass. Eubanks Fortress, the catalyst for victory, the foundation of a champion.
When you're driving places,
there's a lot more power, high-octane power in Hess 101.
the Hess quest for quality goes on 24 hours a day.
For driving places, arriving places, and having fun. 101.
Always doing things differently and better.
For climbing hills and turnpike speed, Hess 101 has all the power you need.
A fleet of tankers, hundreds of trucks to serve you.
The stations are bright, so sparkling and neat. The service so fast and so complete.
This is what the Hess quest is all about.
For driving places, arriving places, and having fun. 101, there's a lot more power, high-octane power in Hess 101 octane gasoline.
At the sign of quality.
The best laid plans of mice and men. In the summer, it's the Super Bowl. But as winter approaches, it's a winning record, a series, a game. For the Jets, it was 3 weeks in November, 3 weeks against all odds. It began on November 15th in Los Angeles. Led by George Allen and Roman Gabriel, the Rams were contenders and favored by 17. But it was the Jets' number 18 that would rewrite this script. By now, Woodall had learned. He had learned how to counter a fearsome foursome with traps and draws. And in the first half, he would do so, keeping Merlin Olsen and company honest for the pass. The Rams, however, were first to score early in the second quarter. Then Woodall, an extra for so long, took over the starring role. His supporting cast, too, had come to play. Maynard's catch and run, plus a referee's whistle, gave the Jets the ball on the 30. Maynard left with an injury, but the next play saw his replacement, Rich Castor, tie the score at 7. Then it was Woodall again. A pump fake, a pass to Maynard. First and goal on the 3. The line blocked and the runners ran. George Knock pushed and shoved, and New York led 14-7. Earlier in the game, the Rams had been stopped near the goal on a community effort. Now, late in the first half, the situation was the same, and so were the results. Roman Gabriel and his Hollywood 40 could not penetrate the Leather Boys from the big city. The half ended with Al Atkinson intercepting and New York sitting on a 17-7 lead. The goal line stand had been the turning point of the game. The second half would be an anticlimax. Al Atkinson continued to dominate the Rams offense and would be awarded a game ball for his efforts. Al Woodall, meanwhile, was sharpening his teeth on the Rams secondary. He threw for 3 scores in the game and gained 260 yards passing on just 10 completions. It was, without question, the Jets' best game of the season. And as Lee White took a screen pass and followed Schmidt, Herman, and Rasmussen over the goal, the drama was over, the script rewritten. The Rams almost knocked out of contention. The Jets winners in the biggest upset of the year, 31-20. The following Sunday, it was a day for defense, a day for what the players called the green slime. They punished the Patriots 17-3 and sent Joltin' Joe Cap back to Boston with a sore machismo. 89 total yards, only 23 rushing, and for the second straight week, no first downs rushing, both club records. The Bandage Brigade had done it again, November 22nd. Were these two victories shots in the dark? Were the Jets but rocking horse winners building castles in the air? Shea Stadium burst to find out on November 29th. Bud Grant's Minnesota Vikings were the enemy. It would take a super effort to beat the Purple Gang at their own game, hit and tough. But from the first play, it was evident that that's exactly what the Jets' offense was going to do. Herman took Larson, Hill Marshall, Foley Eller. They took them and they left the Minnesota Maulers soiled and spoiled. They ran right at them. They ran right through them. And George Knock ran around them for 15 yards and a touchdown. 15 of 117 he would gain. The Jets' first series had told the story of the game, and they led 7-0. Defensively, too, the Jets would out-hit and out-tough the Vikings. They took a page from the Vikings' own lexicon and hit and smacked and socked and tore at quarterback Gary Quazzo, forcing him out of the game in the first half, while holding his runners to just 59 yards on the day. Al Woodall was calling a perfect game, letting his runners and blockers control the ball and consume the clock. Jim Turner's field goal gave the Jets a 10-3 lead at the half. Keep the pressure on, they hollered. Keep on keeping on for 30 more minutes. And Al Woodall kept on. George Sauer did too. And it was 17-3 after 3. But the Vikings had the best record in pro football and would not die easily. Bob Lee drove them down. Jim Lindsay scored. And with 10 minutes left, it was 17-10. 10 minutes left. 10 minutes for a defense that had worked so hard all year to preserve a stunning upset over a champion. 10 minutes left for John Elliott to charge and sack. 8 minutes left for W.K. Hicks to steal and run. Six minutes left for Early Thomas to jump and catch, setting up another Turner field goal and a 20-10 lead. And 10 seconds left for Steve Tannen to shut the door and bolt it. You plan, you practice, and you pray. In the summer, you think of the Super Bowl. But on one Sunday in November, the sweetness of victory brightens a cloudy season and gives you hope for next year. Wait till next year was the cry. Wait till next year when the bandages are gone, the cast removed. When John Riggins joins the Jets from college. When Bobby Howfield comes from Denver to send his towering kickoffs out of sight. When the arms of Jerry Philbin will once again be hugging quarterbacks. When Matt Snell returns to join Knock and Boozer. The Easy Riders driving to touchdowns. When George Sauer returns to add sweetness. And Don Maynard wisdom to the Jets' passing attack. And wait till next year when the man returns. Returns to light the lights of Broadway. To fire the soul of a city. So return with us to Shea Stadium, to the glitter of green and the promise of gold. Return with us to see the New York Jets battle the fates and reach the moon. Only the sky is the limit.